Okay, we're going to start a little mini unit just for this week on nationalism. Nationalism is the belief that people should be loyal to the people with whom they share a common bond of history and culture, and not to a king or an empire. What commonly bonded people into a nation and made them feel this way? There's 6 different things, and they don't have to all be present for people to feel bonded. Culture, history, language, religion, nationality, and territory, or where they live. A nation is a group of people bonded by some of those traits. They can be bonded by 3 of them or more, but as long as they feel a bond because of those things, they are a nation. So it's a group of people bonded by a common language, history, or culture. A nation-state is a nation with its own independent government. So until a nation gets its own independent government, it's just a nation. When it becomes an independent government, it's a nation-state. In 1815, right when Napoleon was exiled, only France, Great Britain, and Spain were considered nation-states. You look at the map. All right, here's Great Britain in red, France in blue, and Spain in pink. The rest of Europe were lots of little states or large empires. There's 2 different types of nationalism we'll talk about this week. There's unifying nationalism, when people who are politically divided and separated, but culturally similar, merge together. And then there's separating nationalism, when a culturally distinct group resists being added to or breaks away from a state or empire. You'll see examples of both. The first example is Greece. The Greeks were a part of the Ottoman Empire, but they had a strong ancient history and culture that made them feel distinct or different, and they were inspired by this new nationalist movement. They demanded independence and rebelled against the Ottomans in 1821. They wouldn't have been able to do it on their own, but a lot of Europeans and Americans had a fondness and love for the Greeks because of what they learned in the Renaissance about their culture and history. With the help of the Americans and the Europeans, the Greeks were able to break away from the Ottoman Empire and won independence in 1830. Another example is Germany. The German people felt unified or bonded by a common culture, a common language of German, and a common history, but they were politically separated into many different states. If you look at this map, all these different colors were different German states, but they all spoke the same language, shared the same holidays and culture, and a common history. Prussia, this peach color up here, was the largest and most powerful of the German states, and they led the unification process. The Prime Minister of Prussia was in charge of the Prussian military, which was the strongest in Europe, and he used his military to pick fights with other countries that had influence over German states, like France and Austria, knowing that he could win those wars, take the land that he wanted, and unify it into a new Germany, which you see in this map on the bottom. This new German Empire was unified from all the above states by 1870. Another example is Italy. Italy was separated into many different states, as you see in this top left map. But the Italian people were bonded by a common language, a common culture, they were all Catholic, and they had a common history. So nationalist leaders used diplomacy, alliances, and politics to unite the northern states. And the southern leaders used war to unite the southern states. And then they were all eventually joined under the leadership of one king by 1870. The result of nationalism is that there were a lot more nation states, as you can see on this map. All right, Great Britain, France, and Spain are joined by Italy and Switzerland and Germany and Belgium and the Netherlands. It also shifted power in Europe. The most powerful nations now were Germany and Great Britain. And all of this actually builds up to World War I. It takes a few decades, but all of the nationalism made these countries very proud of themselves and want to show their pride and prove that they were the strongest and the best in Europe. And that leads to a competitive atmosphere that helps contribute to World War I. What I'd like you to do is go back through these slides and put the definitions in your notebook for nationalism, nation, and nation-state. Also, give one example from the 3 that were given of unifying nationalism, and give one example of the 3 that were given of separating nationalism. List those 6 bonds of a nation in your notes, that's on that colorful wheel, and explain them. And then think about America and which of those 6 bonds Americans share and which of the bonds Americans don't share, and explain your reasoning. Lastly, think about nationalism from the point of view of Franklin High School. Are we a nation? Are we a nation state? And explain your responses. Thank you.